So it's actually doing it, so that's good.
Okay.
All right, we are live. All right, it's 3:30. Good afternoon, everyone. It's a beautiful Saturday afternoon. Thank you again for joining me for the budget conversation this year. Now, this is an interesting one. I know some of you are wondering that we passed the budget our last council meeting, so why are we still doing budget conversation? The reason why I wanted to do this is because at the beginning of our budget conversation, we talk about transit. And so I promise that before this segment is over, I will bring members of the mayor's transportation or transit team to come and talk to us about that. And so that's what we're trying to do today. I want to congratulate Budget Chair again, Delisha Porterfield, on an incredible job with the budget. Congratulate the finance team, the mayor, the council, and everybody that led us through an interesting budget here, but one that I believe focuses on the people and despite a tight budget here, have a positive outcome for our residents. To all of you that were part of my budget conversation, you will see that when you look at my wish list, which was submitted to the budget chair and discussed in council, and a lot of the things that you raised in the budget conversation were in that wish list, which is one of the reasons why I do this. I listen to you, your comments, your suggestions, and I take that, put it into my wish list, and sometimes, lucky enough, they all make it. Sometimes some of them make it. And so I was so proud that some of the ones that were on my wish list were able to make it to the final budget. So thank you all for participating with us. And so now, the thing that we came for. I know a lot of you have been hearing about the transit plan. You've seen the buses and the signs. And so I wanted to give us the opportunity to be able to discuss this as well. So I have with me this afternoon, Mr. Michael Briggs with the Mayor's Office. So Michael, if you will introduce yourself, your title, what you do with the Mayor's Office, and your role with the transit program in general. I think you're on mute.
Always the first mistake. So thank you so much.
It's okay.
Thank you for having me. Glad to be here, and I know it's a hot day, so hopefully everyone's inside and cooling off and able to not be out in the heat. So I'm Michael Briggs. I am the Director of Transportation Planning in Mayor O'Connell's office, and we have been working on a transportation improvement program called Choose How You Move. Hopefully you've seen a little bit about it, others. And so I am happy to share a bit more details about that with you all today. So we're going to spend some time going through information that I have about the program and then talk through some questions. So I'm going to try sharing my screen.
And while Michael is looking for a screen, as always, for those of you that are online, feel free to put your comments and your questions. We will take them as we go along. And as we see them, we'll be able to put them through. So we want it to be something that you're participating. And if you have any question, this is the opportunity to ask Michael. We've got the expert here with us.
Yeah. So definitely jot down some questions, and we'll have a couple of opportunities to talk through some of the issues. So I'm going to talk through Choose How You Move. It's our all-access pass to sidewalk signals, service, and safety. And you may hear us refer to it as the Transportation Improvement Program. And we're going to talk through then kind of these four areas. So Choose How You Move will complete the priority sidewalk network when combined with annual capital spending. And so when we talk about the priority sidewalk network, these are the main pikes, the main corridors. So think Dickerson, Nolensville Road, Murfreesboro Pike, making sure we fill in the sidewalk network where people are trying to access transit and our main bus routes today. We're upgrading nearly 600 traffic signals. So that's actually the signalized intersections. And so this will be our best chance to modernize our signal system for our future needs. And then we're also doing a lot to expand and enhance transit. It ends at 1 a.m. And many of our main corridors will be able to expand the service to 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And then we'll serve more areas of the county as well with new crosstown service. So you'll see a lot of improvement there. And then where a lot of these infrastructure improvements are proposed, we're addressing many of the safety needs where it's been challenging to cross the street or lighting is difficult. We'll be improving the safety on those streets with the infrastructure improvements. So we're going to talk through the sidewalk signals, service, and safety components of the program. The important thing to remember is that it's currently with Metro Council right now. It's on second reading next Tuesday. As long as Council continues through approving the program to go to voters, it will be on the November 5th ballot. And that is the opportunity for voters to go in and decide whether or not to implement the program. So the reason we have pulled this program together is it came up a lot during Mayor O'Connell's transition into office and through the campaign. And it's been an issue in terms of improving transportation infrastructure for many years. This issue keeps coming up, and we have a lot of streets where we're walking in what we call goat paths or in ditches. So where the grass has been worn, and this is an example on Dickerson Road, where if someone's accessing the bus, they're walking in ditches and don't have a safe way really to cross the street or to get to the bus stop in many instances. And through past surveys and other plans that have been done, Nashvillians keep bringing this issue up and agree that we need to address this. And the program is based on over a decade's worth of plans that have been done both at the county and city level, also at the regional level. And so the ideas that are in the program are not really anything new. It's we've pulled really the best practical ideas together in order to implement through this program. So you'll hear us talk about some of the same corridors kind of over and over. It's Dickerson Road, Murfreesboro, Nolensville, Gallatin, Clarksville Pike, West End, Charlotte, really trying to make sure transit service is operating well and frequent and reliable on those corridors, and that the infrastructure is safe and meeting our modern needs. The other reason this is important, so the community has been asking for these improvements for a while, but we are now one of 4 of the top 50 US cities that does not have dedicated transit funding. So to put that in another way is that there's essentially 46 other cities that are ahead of us that have dedicated transportation funding. And we're basically at the bottom of that list of those top 50 cities in order to compete. So this is our opportunity to unlock federal funding that is going to other cities that we're paying already. And it's going to places like Kansas City, Oklahoma City, Cincinnati, Indianapolis. And it's because we can't guarantee that we can deliver these larger infrastructure projects over several years. And so that's the reason dedicated transportation funding is important. And we would have then the ability to unlock $1.4 billion in federal money through this program. So the reason this is so important and really an issue that's not kind of go away till we address it in some comprehensive way is that we're growing as a region. So not only in Nashville, but our surrounding counties. Nashville's just sort of the hub of where all the activity happens, and where a lot of our transportation routes merge in. And so when you look at where we are on the graph here in 2020 compared to our peers, we're going to continue to grow over the next 20 years, and we'll be about the size of Denver today by 2045. So if you've gone to Denver or gone to some of these other cities, you've seen usually some type of transit that is working pretty well there. And we today just have the bus system and the WeGo Star, and it's really just working with very minimal resources today. And this would help us bring up our service comparable to some of these other cities. And it's also an issue for residents. Housing, as many of us have experienced here, the costs have risen both for renters and owners, particularly over the last 5+ years. It's really increased. And when you look at the expenses that most Nashvillians have, housing and transportation are typically your two biggest expenses. For the median household income, oftentimes 40% or more is spent just on housing and transportation alone. And if you make less than the median income, you're often spending more than 50% of your take-home pay on just housing and transportation. So that's just getting around town, getting to your job, and essential, shelter. So this is an opportunity for us to drive down the cost for Nashvillians by ensuring that we have transportation options that are competitive to driving around the city. So you can find more information about this at nashville.gov/transit. And there's a map also on that website that you can zoom in and out. So this map on the right shows all of the improvements that are here with the program. And we'll talk a bit more about the sidewalk signal service and safety as well. But I thought I might stop and see if you've gotten any questions that have come in either on the Facebook chat or anything, or if anyone wanted to ask questions as well.
No question yet,
Okay.
but I know people are eager to learn. I'm looking at it and I look at the 4 S's. Is that what we're looking at?
Correct.
Which is interesting. So, but no question at this time.
Okay. So let's jump in then to the 4 S's and talk about the first one, which is sidewalks. So with the sidewalks included in the program, we will add or upgrade 86 miles of sidewalks. If we were to build that today in one continuous length, it would be like starting in downtown Nashville and building a sidewalk all the way to Cookeville, Tennessee. We're not going to do that. We're going to instead do those sidewalks on our main roads. But that shows you the amount of sidewalks that we can do with this program. This is an issue that and an infrastructure that is very essential, and we frankly can't build them fast enough in many of our neighborhoods. And we have a major issue of where we have gaps on our main corridors and pikes where bus service is running, and there's not safe ability to walk along the street. So some people are walking in the ditches, as I mentioned earlier. Sometimes it's full with stormwater or it's muddy. And this is really needed to bring those main corridors up to modern needs where we have people accessing the bus. Choose How You Move also increases the amount of our walkable neighborhoods by 50%. So it's a pretty significant investment in walking infrastructure. But we recognize so many of our neighborhoods have this need that we can't do this fast enough. So as I mentioned, this will complete our entire priority sidewalk network. It also opens up walkable access to 1 in 3 Nashvillians to transit today. So the picture that's shows you the housing that is on Dickerson Road with the transit shelter and the crossing. That is a great example of how we need sidewalks built in order to access the bus system there. This also is making sure we do 60% of our sidewalk investment within our underrepresented neighborhoods, and we'll deliver sidewalks in those neighborhoods. So with the next S,
So
which
before
is,
you go to the signals, the 86 miles, and I know that this is covering a lot of neighborhood. Is there a way for folks to see, or do we know which neighborhood those are, or that is still something that is still in plans?
yeah, so I can show you, and happy to show this towards the end on the
Okay,
interactive map where some
okay.
of the sidewalks are programmed.
Okay, we can
Um,
leave it to the end.
yeah, happy to show that. I think the thing to remember is that this is a program, so some of the infrastructure may change over time since we're doing this over 15 years.
Okay.
So, in order to respond to some conditions that could change, that is something to always keep in mind as you're looking at where the improvements are proposed, particularly with like sidewalks and some of the traffic signals.
Okay.
Very good question. So, with the next S, it's traffic signals. So we'll update nearly 600 of our signalized intersections. So this is 2 out of every 3 of our countywide traffic signals. This takes improvements in some instances, like on Murfreesboro Road and Gallatin Road, all the way to the county line, to where we'll be able to tie in and connect to neighboring counties' signal systems. So when they're ready and want to tie into the network, they can do that. I'm going to see if I can try to play one thing really quickly because it's kind of brings back memories for some of us that remember dial-up modems. And y'all might remember this noise. So those younger than us probably don't even know what that is.
Oh my God, that's traumatic in some ways.
Right. Yeah. So you might remember, having to dial into the internet. We didn't have it at our fingertips. And really, our traffic signal system is, in some instances, not even capable of doing dial-up. We've had some that have just come off of that using cell service, but they're not interconnected. So the one on the screen right now, Murfreesboro Road, is showing how there are some components you can add to the signals and make it work better. But we can do much better than what we have been doing. So you have experienced this where you see the police officer doing a great job of clearing traffic at the intersection. They're sometimes at the signal cabinet with a button. And then like 3 or 4 intersections down, it's backed up. And it's because we don't have a good view of all of our congestion across the county. And so we'll be able to tie the new signals into a traffic management center that will come online this fall. So if you're ever over at the Howard office building, this is in Howard, and will be connected and come online this fall. So as signals come online into the system, they'll come into this network. There'll be analytics that will be running behind the scenes. It'll help alert the signal technicians and traffic engineers to issues. They'll be able to resolve things remotely or be able to dispatch crews to an area. Because what happens today, if we have a power failure on one of our corridors, it throws all of the signals out of sync. And then we don't ever know about it. So then they may come back online. And unless we get a report, we don't know to send a signal technician out to go and fix it and get the signals back in sync. And like I set in, this was probably about a month ago, traffic. It was actually around this time on a Saturday on Murfreesboro Road, kind of near British Woods Apartments, where the Nashboro Boulevard signal and the signal there were just like totally out of sync. And it felt like it was like the middle of PM rush hour, and it was just because those two signals were not working together.
Yeah, I had
So,
the same experience actually this week.
okay.
And it was on Broadway.
Yeah.
And it was really scary because there were so many pedestrians, there were so many people crossing the streets, and at every intersection, we are waiting for each other to determine who goes first. And you have about 3 or 4 streets where all the traffic lights stopped, and that was scary.
Yeah.
And so I think it's good to know that. So I'm texting folks like, who do we tell? Does everybody know who should know about this? And I was told NES knows about it and they're on top of it, but to be able to have a system where somebody sees it immediately and they can work on it remotely, I think that would be incredible.
Yeah. Yeah, and as we start and continue to have big events and have buses that need to get through and stay reliable, this is a great way to make sure we're keeping the system functioning the best that it can.
So before you leave the signals, and I don't know, maybe you might have it in another slide, is that other than the signals being connected, I love that part of it. What else are the updates that are being made to these signals? What to a layperson? Okay, so you're fixing the lights. That's good. How does that help me? What does that do for me now? So is there anything else, any update being made to the signals that make it better, faster? I've heard that maybe you won't be sitting in traffic for a long time in red
Yeah,
light. Is that an option? Can you expatiate on that?
yeah. So with the signals not being able to be adjusted as kind of flexibly as we need, there's usually a timing that is in place. So it kind of runs the same timing, throughout the day. Some of them may change on the weekends, others may just have the same kind of weekday use. So we have the ability to do timing that is more dynamic. It can kind of learn what is happening with some of the congestion patterns and be able to change and function much better. Um, Also, as you have signals that are timed better along a whole corridor, you'll have drivers that won't be as frustrated because they're not hitting kind of red light, stop and go. They'll hit, several green signals, but kind of learn over time that like if I keep a similar speed that's not as high of a rate kind of in between
Mm,
them,
mm,
they'll be able to hit the green lights. Um, so that should help reduce over time kind of some of the aggressive driving that we see and help with some of the behavior issues because people
mm,
get frustrated hitting red
mm.
light after red
So
light. The
basically,
other,
this is where right now our signals are timed, and so I could be sitting at a stop sign with no traffic on the other 3 signs, but I have to wait for my red to be green because it's set for 3 seconds or 10 seconds. But with the new system, the system will see that there's no traffic on the other three and it can change to green, and I won't have to sit there for a long time. Am I understanding that correctly?
yeah, it that is likely if you're on the main route. Now, if you're on some of the side streets, it may
Mm,
take it like it does today, but on the
mm,
main route would be
mm,
to try to get some of those flowing more reliably. Because what you experience today is that you may hit a green light and then the very next one you hit red and then the
mm.
one just beyond it goes green right as the one in front of you changes. And so it's just a matter of that these have gotten out of sync, and if we can keep that much better on the main pikes, that'll help keep the speeding and all like within the speed limit range as well, and keep frustration down. It also keeps the buses being reliable because if cars are experiencing that, the bus is experiencing the same thing.
Sure. Mm.
So
Thank you.
yeah. So then, speaking of buses, there's a lot to talk about with service, and I'll just hit a few things on this. Um, we're going to establish 54 miles of all access corridors. So what that means is that everything is improved. So it's better sidewalks and improved sidewalks and construction of sidewalks in some instances where it's not there. It's improved safety because we're updating crossings, improving lighting, pavement markings. It's creating reliable and frequent transit service. So it's service that's 15 minutes or better. And the key thing, too, is it being reliable. Because if it is, as I mentioned, stuck in the same traffic or gets bunched up with some other buses, it's not as reliable as it could be. And that's just a thing that if we can get it frequent and reliable, people will use it. So everything is improved, including the signals as well. So drivers will experience improvements. The buses will have improvements. Walking, biking along these corridors will be much safer and improved. As part of the service enhancements, there'll be also 2 times the hours of frequent service. So we'll be able to expand that to more routes in the system than we can today. And we'll be upgrading a number of bus stops. So our goal has been to get as much of WeGo's ridership to have a shelter, kind of like the one you see on the screen, or something that's of similar scale. And so the completion of this program will help us have about 90% of all boardings at a shelter. It doesn't get a shelter at every stop, but it gets where we have the most frequent boardings. Also, we'll do 12 transit centers. And a really good example of this is about to open up in North Nashville called the Rip Patton Transit Center. And this has allowed us to create bus service on Trinity Lane. There was not any service at all on much of Trinity Lane before. The Trinity Lane service now connects you from East Nashville over to Bordeaux and North Nashville, and will connect into the center. So WeGo riders will be able to go essentially from neighborhood to neighborhood with service like this, and with more transit centers. So we'll have transit centers come online in places like Bellevue, Antioch, Rivergate. There's several planned a little bit closer into to town, and also help with service within and around downtown. So this will help riders not have to go into downtown and back out, because the worst thing we can do is to try and send more people into downtown in order to get like from north of town to like South Nashville. And if we're able to make connections outside of downtown, that'll help speed up the bus service and travel time for riders. Also, in some instances, we'll have the ability to co-locate housing or other community needs close by. So the program is not going to deliver the housing, but we'll be able to secure space in order to do the transit center and have like a joint development partner come in and do housing or other community needs close to the site.
That's good.
Also with service, there are these 17 park and rides. So when you look on this map here, these are at these pink circled areas. So with there being 17, this will get service close to the county line. And we'll have 4 express routes coming in from Jolton, Rivergate, Antioch, and Bellevue. So this is setting us up, we see these arrows here, to connect with our neighboring counties. So when, say, Montgomery County and Clarksville or Murfreesboro are ready to expand their part of the system, they'll be able to hook into our system much more seamlessly. They would also have the opportunity to take advantage of the park and ride locations that are on the edge of the county as well and connect in to the WeGo system. We'll be able to expand some WeGo Star service to where we have some service on weekends and more special events. WeGo Access, which is our service for those that have mobility needs. So you'll hear us call it a paratransit service. This is where it has a smaller bus that takes you from your home to a site. So maybe like a medical appointment, could be a grocery store. It ends at 1 a.m. as well, and it covers the whole county today. But this will allow us to have WeGo Access operate 24/7. And then we have a program called WeGo Link that utilizes Uber, subsidized Uber rides. And they're in zones kind of in the southeast here on the screen. There's a couple in Bellevue and some towards the east. We've not been able to do that countywide, but we would be able to open up and create more zones countywide and hit other places like up towards Jolton, north of Goodlettsville, parts of Bellevue that we can't serve with the program today.
So the WeGo Link will be partnering with, like you said, an Uber or something that will take you from your home and take you to the bus stop.
Correct.
Okay, and then the WeGo Star, I know it's the light. Can you explain to more people what the WeGo Star is?
Yeah.
For people that don't know what WeGo Star is.
Yeah. Very good question. So WeGo Star is a train that runs from downtown Nashville, so kind of on the screen, out to the east, all the way to Lebanon. So it goes well into Wilson County. It mainly operates commuter service, so just in the mornings and evenings, and makes several runs on the rail line there. We are seeing on the regional service since COVID happened, since the pandemic, those services aren't being utilized as much because many of the commuters have much more flexible work options now. So they may be working from home a few days or have more staggered shifts. So we're trying to think through and work with the railroad authority there, opportunities to give additional options either during the day or on the weekend, and then with special events. The railroad has been very receptive to our event service, and so we're wanting to continue that conversation, and this funding would help at least lock in some additional service on the weekends where it doesn't run today.
Thank you.
So yeah, one other program to mention is free transit rides for those based on income. We've never had a program like that before in Nashville. We do some lower rates for older adults and those with disabilities, but we've never had one based on income. Excuse me. This is similar to like what LA Metro does with their Life program. And if you Google that, you can find more info on it. But this would help those that qualify for nutrition assistance or like housing eligibility programs to get an enabled quick ticket account and ride the WeGo bus for free. So that's a big program and an opportunity for those that qualify for those programs. So with improvements like that and the frequent service being added, the more reliable service, we really feel like this is a way to lower costs for many Nashvillians and also address the needs of a 24/7 workforce, because we have a lot of people that work in the hospitality industry, tourism, various professions involving the tourist sector. Many of our safety professionals and like our medical and hospital professionals, if they have overnight shifts or shifts that start early in the morning, they have no other way to get to their job than to drive usually, or take Uber or Lyft. And this would open up the bus system on many of our main routes to have those professionals and those part of the workforce be able to take the bus system to work. So with the fourth S, we're going to talk about safety. When you begin to overlay all of these improvements, we start to address the issues on our what we call our high injury network, which is where we've done analysis of the street system and identified where we have more of our fatalities and serious injuries occurring. And so we'll be able to redesign 35 of those intersections. We've got 39 miles of complete streets. So when I say complete streets, we'll be adding elements like you see on the screen, where we've had a street that is maybe 4 lanes wide, and we add elements to connect with the bus system, improve lighting, signage, improve the pavement marking so that it's much safer and more of a complete street. And so we've got 39 miles of that, and it addresses some of the high injury network, and then also has some improvements to our bikeway system. So those are the 4 S's, and then I can get into the schedule and impacts, unless there's other questions that have come in.
I'm looking. No, I think people are just taking it all in, and enjoying all of what you're talking about. So no question at this point.
Perfect. So when we talk about completion of the program, this will take some time to do. So when voters go in and vote on the program, we would not, and if it's approved in November, we are not able to start collecting the additional revenue until February 1st of 2025. It does open us up to being able to generate bonds, starting to compete for grants. So there's work that would begin on the administrative side immediately. But some of the bigger infrastructure projects will take some time to complete. So when you think of the 15 years that we have to deliver the program, we're oftentimes talking about service improvements happening sooner, technology improvements sooner, and then larger capital projects happen kind of mid-program and then towards the program completion. So what I mean by this is that within years 1 and 2, we can begin expanding some of the routes 24/7. Adding new routes, and it's a matter of getting buses delivered and drivers and operators hired to do that work. So we're not able to, expand the whole network immediately, but as we've experienced with service changes with WeGo each fall and spring, you would see more service changes after the program is approved. Then things like signal improvements start. We'd be able to update some of the signals on corridors, and we can begin a planning for our all access corridors. So where we're envisioning everything everything being improved, we have to go through a process of engaging the community on it, settling in on what the design of the street will be. And that's all before we're able to then put a shovel in the ground and start doing those infrastructure improvements. So you'll see a lot of infrastructure changes then as you start getting kind of years 2 and beyond. And we plan to have the program delivered within 15 years. So it takes a little bit of time.
I'm still going to sit in traffic for 15 years?
So, yeah, I realize that. I don't know that traffic's ever going to go away because we're a growing region, but hopefully you see much more reliable commutes coming in on some of the corridors. You see bus improvements happening. and you'll see smaller infrastructure improvements sooner. Then you're probably asking, then what does this mean at the end of the day to my wallet or to my pocketbook? What am I being asked to contribute to deliver this program? So anytime you go to Walmart or Target and you spend $50, it would be an additional 25 cents or a quarter that would go towards this program completely, because it would be dedicated funding to deliver this transportation program. For most households in Davidson County, that ends up being about $6 more per month. So what's interesting, though, with Davidson County, there's two things. One is many of our surrounding counties already have a sales tax rate at this level. So this would be changing the sales tax by a half penny. So it'd be a sales tax surcharge by a half penny. Currently, our rate at Davidson County is 9.25% or one quarter. If you go to Cool Springs, if you go to Murfreesboro to the Avenue or Providence, a place in Mount Juliet, you're paying a 9.75% sales tax rate already. So it's bringing it in line with our surrounding counties. Sumner is the only exception, but this would bring Davidson County to the same sales tax rate as the surrounding counties. The second thing that's interesting about this is that we estimate about 60% of our sales tax being paid by visitors into Davidson County. So that's those people commuting into Davidson County or those that are here for vacation and tourism needs. So we'll be able to leverage that where we have really robust commuting patterns and a robust economic sector to help deliver this program. Then at the end of the day, it's an opportunity to reduce costs of owning and maintaining a car. So new cars are not cheap. And when you start to add in the gas, insurance, saving for repairs, in addition to the car payment, it's oftentimes about $1,000 a month that someone is having to pay on a brand new car. And so this is an opportunity to extend the life of our vehicles if you have other travel options. So you may be able to extend the life of the car and not have to get repairs done. Some families are buying 2 and 3 cars, so maybe it's an opportunity to not have to get that second or third car. It can be an opportunity to save on parking costs. So like when you go downtown for a big event and drive, you're often paying $40. And so just coming twice downtown on the WeGo bus and not having to pay for parking 2 times, all of that extra sales tax surcharge that you've paid in that year is paid for itself just in that alone. And so we feel strongly that this is a way to give additional options for people to get around the city. So that's all the information I have, and I'm happy to show some of the detailed info on the website as well, and we can look at that.
Let's do a couple of questions, and then we can go into how people can access the information. So one that I got that was sent to me is a lot of this focuses on WeGo and on buses. I've always said that, you know, when I first moved to this town, I live in Bellevue, and I remember the last bus that leaves downtown to come to Bellevue leaves at 5 o'clock. So if I'm in my office and I don't get out in time, I won't be able to get on the bus. And it was one of the reasons why I had to learn to drive, because I didn't have to. I came from Nigeria where I had a driver, and DC where there were buses. And so, but I came to Nashville, I had to learn to drive because of that. So I think having the buses is great. I think if they're reliable and accessible, you have a lot of them and you can time them, I will get on the bus and I wouldn't have to pay $40 for parking. So I like the plan. But the question though that I got is that if we are making this the main point of the stuff, can we guarantee ridership? How do we know that people will get on the bus? Have we what is our thought on that? Have you had that question being asked, or what is the opinion of the people as you continue to make the presentation in terms of are people excited about getting on the bus?
Yeah. Yeah, so we know that I kind of compare this to electricity. So we know that if the outlet that you're trying to plug, like maybe your phone in and get it charged, um, if it is not working, you're probably not going to go back to that same outlet and keep trying it again and again. And we kind of have to think about the way we deliver our bus operations is like that it needs to be really reliable. It needs to be frequent so that it's there when people need it. And if people have kind of built that trust and know that it's reliable, they will take it. And like studies have shown this. And I think there's actually one that it landed in my email yesterday too, talking about that really the reliability of bus service is what helps generate ridership. And I'd be happy to pass that along afterwards. So, like, as part of this program, we don't have to model ridership. We will have to do that, though, on some of the all access corridors as we compete for federal funding. So, there's usually a modeling that happens based on the improvements that are proposed to see what level of ridership is projected to take place, and then we kind of judge sometimes the success of that based on that modeling.
All right. Thank you. So, the other question here is, I know you talk about the WeGo access and how do we help our residents that have disability. This question is asking, can you expatiate on that? What are the other things we're doing other than picking them up? Or the little vans, I think that's what you talk about. But how are we making sure that at the bus stop, the transit center takes all of that into consideration? The second part of it, again, is also about access, but this time for non-English speaking residents. Most of the signs, most of the information we have are only in English. And so if we're trying to expand ridership, and this is the main mode that we want everybody to take, right? How do we make sure that people know they're getting on the right bus, people know that this is how to go from this? Are there plans for language access? Is there anything built into this program to address both disability as well as language access in the plan?
Yeah. Yeah, so even in terms of trying to get the message out about this program, we've been working to get a one-page handout translated into our most five common languages in Davidson County. We've actually gotten those back, and the Spanish translation we're working through right now to have someone at WeGo who speaks Spanish pretty fluently and knows some of the technical kind of jargon that we use in the industry and make sure it's like translated well and done well. So those are actually going to be available soon. And so we've done that in Spanish, Arabic, Kurdish, Somali, and I believe Burmese are the languages we've done. And we've been talking with several organizations about how to get this out, and then also doing Spanish language transit talks. So similar to what I'm doing, having someone that speaks Spanish fluently be able to present this as well. So we're thinking about that just in terms of talking about the program. Then in terms of the service day to day, so you'll see on the signs, a lot of the signs have transitioned from kind of a blue smaller sign that says like MTA on it and just says bus stop to a purple colored sign, and it's got an image on the back, so it has no wording, but to show kind of from both directions you're able to see that it's clearly a bus stop, and it has the purple kind of bus on it. Then it has oftentimes some info on the route, so like the route number, and the text is tried to be reduced so there's not as much on there. And then there is a QR code that you can scan. And then if you scan that with your phone, you should be able to pull up more information and then go to the website and pick one of the translation services to
Okay.
find out more about it. But we are thinking through even um, just more of kind of visual ways that this comes across. And like the bus system itself has been branded with the purple so that people begin to recognize that this is part of the WeGo system, that it's part of the bus system. You know what to expect. So there's things that are happening with it over time that I think you'll see continue to expand along the route. And then I think we'd be open to ideas. Like if there's ideas to improve that, definitely send them to us, and we'd be happy to get that over to WeGo, their communication staff to consider.
Okay. I'm glad that you're all doing that, and I will get back to the person sending me the question to make sure that, and I'm sure that my immigrant caucus will be interested in that as well, because we
Yeah,
want to make sure that, that it is accessible to everybody, and making sure that the last thing you want is to be on the wrong bus at the end of a
yeah,
very tiring day and find yourself in the other part of town. But I think the transit center will help too. If you get on the wrong one, you'll be able to up back on the next one. So, but I am very interested in making sure that whatever ideas the community has in terms of enhancing access, I will be sure to get that back to you. The same thing for our residents that are disabled, that are how are we addressing their needs? How are we addressing the needs of the people that are hearing impaired and visually impaired? What are we thinking through those as we're talking about signs and things like that?
yeah. So all of the buses have the ability to be lowered. So when someone's boarding the bus, it lowers and makes the step not as steep. And then they all have ramps too that can come out for those that are in wheelchairs. And then all of the operators have the ability to be able to work with those that have mobility needs to make sure that they can get on the bus, get off at the right place. Um, there's also, when you get on the bus, there's visual cues at the top about the where they are on the route, the time. You hear audio cues as well at certain intersections that it's passing through. So a lot of that is trying to meet some of those needs for those that have visual or audio impairments. Um, then when you look at the stop improvements themselves, you'll see a lot of times there's like these yellow mats that have bumps on them as well.
Mm.
We call them truncated domes
Yes,
or
yes.
ADA mats. That helps visually for people to see that they're about to step either into the street or get up onto the curb. It's also a texture thing for when people see that they know that they're approaching, um, traffic. Um, Guide dogs are also trained kind of with steps and being able to see some of those visual cues. So those things are all worked in as part of the improvement. So when we're trying to do a bus stop improvement, it's not the like shelter itself or just even doing the post. It's oftentimes making sure that we get the sidewalk in place, making sure that the ramps and all and transitions between the curb and the street are done. So it's done much more comprehensively than just a shelter or a stop with a sign. It's also
Mm.
looking at those other environmental conditions to make it better
Awesome.
for
Awesome.
everyone.
All right. Appreciate that. Now, would you walk us through the interactive map where people can see which sidewalks we're building, and maybe the transit center where they are, whatever it's on that map, and now people can look at those.
Yeah, happy to show that. Um, so I'm actually going to go back and show that if you go to nashville.gov/transit, it will bring you directly to this
Oh,
site.
I
So
see
you don't
council
have
people on the bus.
yes, yes, there you guys are. So you don't have to type in this long address at the top. It's just nashville.gov/transit. It will
Excellent.
take you to the Metro site that has information on the Choose How You Move program. So you can pull this up here. You can read the full document. So it's about 80 pages that goes into all of the elements of the program. So it's essentially a lot of the same things that I just covered right now. So this is what is the documentation, and it's got also financial things in here too for you to be able to sift through as well. So you can learn a lot of the details just by going through the document. There's also a smaller, shorter summary here. I believe it's about 7 to 10 pages, and it pulls out the highlights of the program as well. So that's there to learn more as a resource. And then you'll get to this. There's 2 spots on here. There's an interactive map here and one here. When you click on that, it'll bring you to this landing page, and you can get directly to it if you just go to transit.nashville.gov. So it's kind of the opposite. It'll take you to this kickoff point. And you can go back to the Choose How You Move program and find out more about the document and everything through here. We could walk through, it walks through some of the sidewalk issues and tells a little bit of a story about some of these as well. So you can kind of learn more about the 4 S's that we talked about. But then when you click on the interactive map link up here, it will bring up a map of the county, and it lays on all of the improvements that are proposed. So it'll take it a little bit of time to show. But you could click on then your area. So like if you're in Madison, it will zoom in to that area. And then like if you wanted to look at like Old Hickory Boulevard, you can go down to the street level and see that when
So
you
at the
click
green
on
line,
it, a lot
the
of
green
info
line, the
comes up.
sidewalks.
So this green line here is showing the all access corridor. So that would include sidewalk improvements on the all access corridor. So if there's not sidewalks today, it would be adding sidewalks. Then if they're not in good shape and need to be reconstructed, we would be reconstructing that as part of the all access corridor. There's like these little red lines on here that show projects that have been recently completed. So it'll come up as like existing sidewalk, and will give you more information, but you can see it was a sidewalk that was planned or under construction. So we pulled in some elements that were part of other funding. But then when you get down to like these that are in this other color here, like this yellow, and it will take it a second, these are part of ones proposed with the referendum. And so you'll see those a lot of times kind of closer to the main transit routes. So the 86 miles is ensuring that we have sidewalks completed along, in this case, like Gallatin Pike, and then connecting into the transit routes here. So then when you look at Madison, it's showing this little red circle with the bus is indicating a transit center in this area in the future, a park and ride somewhere in this area. These are indicating bus stop improvements all along through there. And then the smaller circles are signal improvements. And then there's service routes shown through here that have improvements as well. So that kind of gives you an overview of it. And you have to sort of click on things, turn things on and off. So you can turn on layers. Like if you wanted to take the park and rides off because that's, a big circle, it's kind of cluttering things up. You can turn things on and off. You can take the sidewalks that are existing off, connector routes. So as you kind of play around with it, you can learn more. But we'd also be happy to talk through with
Okay.
residents as to their area and pinpoint things for them.
This is amazing. This is great. Now, I got a question here that says that she said, will you prioritize Nolensville Pike?
Yes. So that we have heard this. So it is coming up through the Transportation Improvement Program document, and I'll show you why this has come up. So let me share my screen again really quickly.
And I think that as you're looking at it, because you want to look at places where people do ride the buses. And I think when you're looking at it, Nolensville is a big one, Murfreesboro is a big one, Donaldson is a big one, Dickerson is a big one, rather. And so I think that's what she's asking. She said, is there a plan to prioritize Nolensville as one of the top ones to be done and to be done soon?
Yeah, and I'd know that it's very important because it is a high ridership route. So
Ridership,
let me get
yes.
to. So within the document, there is a conceptual implementation schedule, and so it's showing the all access corridors through here, and you'll see Nolensville Pike as part of this conceptual schedule when it would be delivered. So it's towards the latter half of the program.
Ooh.
So we have, Murfreesboro, Gallatin, Dickerson. So these are major improvements on these corridors. And like Murfreesboro is our highest ridership route right now. So this is a conceptual schedule. And what I can say is that we know because the past administration put planning funds on Murfreesboro, that Murfreesboro's planning efforts will come first. There's been some community engagement on Gallatin already, but sort of everything else with the program is still up for discussion. So what we're having to do with, in order to meet the state law enabling legislation, is to show that we can deliver the program over the amount of time where we project the revenues coming in. And so part of that is just a implementation schedule. So we haven't gone back to the community and had discussions about if we do Murfreesboro and Nolensville at the same time, what does that look like? Because that's two main routes on that end of town. Mm-hmm. Or if we move Dickerson back later or move Nolensville up, like we feel that we need to have that conversation as a community because we know everybody wants these improvements, I think sooner rather than later. But our ability to be able to do all of them at once is really difficult. So
I would think that Dickerson Park is a big ridership, and so is Nolensville. I don't know about West End. And not to say West End does not deserves that. That's not what I'm saying. But I know that there are more people riding the bus and in Nolensville than there will coming from Bellevue. At least that's the reality for now. So I think as we're looking at it, I think we need to consider that as well. You have a ridership that is already in existence, not people like me that you're trying to convince that it's now good to ride the bus because it's not better, it's not more frequent, right? You have to convince people that haven't been riding buses for a long time to ride it. Whereas in Nolensville and Dickerson, that's what people do already. So I think I'm putting a plug in there that is what I would do in terms of prioritization to make sure that, especially with the first question that the first person asked about, can you guarantee ridership? In a place where you're not looking for riders, the riders already exist, then that would be a place to go to first. And then and then other people will then see how good it is, and then they will jump on the bandwagon. So we know the plan is not set in stone. We know that there's opportunity to continue to improve it and to change it. But I do see it as a plan that will help. As somebody that does not like sitting in traffic, as someone that not very happy with paying a lot for parking. I would gladly hop on the bus if it's reliable and if it's frequent. I think it's something that I would do. So let me check to see if we have anything else before we close it out. Okay, my intern is typing furiously, and people are just happy with it. I do want to say that, sometimes we don't get a lot of people on Facebook because it's a Saturday afternoon and people have so many things to do. But like I've communicated before, people do have the opportunity to go back and watch the video. We also put it on the Metro YouTube website, and we're going to transcribe this into my blog as well as into the newsletter. So we have opportunity to at least reach about 2,000 people through all of those media. And so people do read it, people do watch it, people do ask questions later. So I won't be discouraged if there's no question on Facebook right now. But I want to thank Michael for doing this and for the work and the thoughts that's gone into it. It's not a perfect plan. There would never be a perfect plan, but it gets us started. It's a step in the right direction, and I think there's a whole lot more that goes into it. So I'm going to encourage the community to watch this. If you have any question, please send it over. We'll make sure we pass it on to the right people. Make sure you use the interactive map. Look at what's going on in your area. Talk to your council person. I'm sure the mayor's office wants to hear. There's a lot of community meetings and information sessions still going on that people can attend and be a part of. More than anything, I hope that people will vote. I think that's the bottom line. Any final thoughts? I was gonna ask you this before I let you go. Have you had any pushback as you're presenting across the county on this? And if you have, and when I say pushback, does not necessarily mean they're against it, but concerns that people may have raised other than the ones that I've asked you. And if so, do you want to at least address that so that people watching would know?
Yeah, so you brought up the last one we've heard kind of more recently, and just want to remind that that's a conceptual schedule that's in there, so we'll have time to continue to work through the implementation after the referendum, and so I do envision that we will have a pretty robust community process and oversight as part of that. So that conversation will continue, and we will have to consider ridership, geographic location, construction impacts, the scale of improvements that are being proposed in order to kind of come up with a real hard and fast implementation timeline. We are hearing just some things around related to like the fare that would be paid. So that's come up several times, and it's come up in different ways. So when I've talked about the low income program, it's oftentimes followed up with a question around the fare throughout the life of the program. So today it's $2 per trip, and the program anticipates that, assumes that it remains the same over those 15 years in order to deliver the program. So there's not any kind of fare increase that is anticipated with this. So that is a question that comes up fairly regularly when we're talking about it. We do get some questions, just a lot of people really focus on the sidewalk part and kind of want to see more there. And so just a reminder that sidewalks aren't always just laying down a concrete pad, that we're having to deal with utilities, sometimes right of way and easements, and so they can be smaller road projects essentially. So delivering sidewalks, we can't do it quick enough and fast enough, and so this will really help in our highest need areas. And gets those completed along those main pikes connected to transit.
And for the money part, I'm glad to hear that there's no increase in fares. I'm also glad to know that at least we talked about it before. There's no property tax increase for the transit. It will be via sales tax. Our sales tax will come to the same level as our surrounding cities and county around us, which will be 9.75, and the impact is an additional 25 cents for every $50 that is spent. And this amount will be put in a dedicated funding for transit, which will do this and continue to build on our system for a long time. And that money also allows us to be able to tap into federal funding. Because we now have that dedicated funding, and that's where the money talk comes in. And so, Michael, thank you so very much. If people have ideas, they have questions, do they go through the council person, or is there a way to get in touch with your team? How do people do that? Because like you said, it's not a static plan, it's a plan that will continue to improve. We will continue to do sidewalks. And so how do people get engaged, get involved, get feedback to you? What does that process look like?
Yeah, so we do have an email. So if you email transit@nashville.gov, it goes to our team. That's also linked in onto the website. So if you can't remember that, if you Google the transit program, it will all get you there. We do have opportunities for additional conversations like this. So we're happy to come to other organizations, neighborhood associations, and present. So if you either go to the transit@nashville.gov address, send an email, we can reply back to put it into the Hub Nashville. It's probably easiest just to go to Hub Nashville. And when you get to hub.nashville.gov, the top left-hand corner has a link about transit and find out more about the program. And then you can go in and request someone from the transit team to speak at your meeting. And so I encourage more people to do that because we're happy to come out and talk more about the program.
All righty. Well, I know we went a little bit over, and so thank you for your patience. It's a good lots of good information. We'll make sure that we share it out, and if we get any question, we'll get back with you. Thank you so much for all that you're doing. Thank you for taking the time to come out, folks. This is the end of my budget conversation for FY25. It's been really a pleasure. I want to thank all my guests for all the episodes that we have. I want to thank all of you for listening. This is our city and this is our county, and I think it's important for us to be a part of it. And so listening to conversation like this, providing our feedback is how our government works, and make sure that we're actually doing what the people need. So thank you all again for joining. Thank you, Michael. Thanks to those that are online and everybody that is supported. I appreciate all of you, and I hope that you guys enjoy the rest of your weekend. See you all later. Thanks, Michael.
Thank you for
Appreciate it.
hosting this. I
All right.
appreciate
Thank
it.
you, sir. All right. You
Bye.
have a good one. Thanks, everyone. Hey, Tamika, I know you're watching. Thanks for being here. I know you've been on most of the conversations. So I appreciate it. Lana, I see you. Thanks, everybody. Appreciate you. Okay. Bye.